topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Entrepreneurs Ascending, where we believe in a better life through better business. Here, we help you aspire to greatness, achieve your goals, and ascend to new heights. Whether you're starting, scaling, or exiting, we're here to empower you with inspiring stories, enlightening discussions, and transformative resources to help you accelerate your success. Now, it's time for Entrepreneurs Ascending. Yes, and accelerating that success is a big part of what we're talking about today. We've got a wonderful guest who is going to help you have that confidence that you need to be successful in sales. And let's face it, sales is one of the most brutal games there are. You know, being able to take the no's, but then also keep focused and keep driven for that next yes. So we have with us, and I'll bring her on here in just a moment. She's the founder of AIM Training and Consulting, and she's actually an author of the book From Zero to Sales Hero. And I think that there's a story behind that, so we'll be able to dig in with her on that. And I'm excited to introduce to you, as my voice cracks a little, Amy Lemire. Amy, please come on with us.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. I'm really excited. I've heard you talk before, and it was a fantastic presentation, and it made an impact on me. And I'm really glad to have you on to be able to share some of that here today. So thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Well, we definitely want to get into a little bit of that story of the Zero to Sales Hero, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about like your journey as an entrepreneur. I mean, what made you want to go out and develop your own business and, become a speaker and an author and all that? Like what inspired you?
That's a great question, Matt. And it's interesting because the dream actually started way back in about 2008. I was in sales at that time in my career, and it all started with giving a presentation that didn't go very well. I had this fear of public speaking, so I went out and I joined Toastmasters. And the interesting thing about that decision was that once I joined Toastmasters, I thankfully finally overcame my fear of public speaking. But I found I had a real strong interest in teaching and training. And that was really, I think, where the seed was planted. I eventually, just about 2 years ago, after spending some time as a corporate sales trainer, just decided I'd like to go out and do it on my own as my own entity. So it all started with really discovering I really enjoyed teaching and training, though.
Okay. So being able to transfer that knowledge to others and see them be successful, some of that is kind of what brought you here today. Awesome. So you kind of alluded a little bit to a presentation that didn't go so well. Is that kind of that inspiration from that zero part of your book, From Zero to Sales Hero?
Yes, it's interesting because I will share a bonus topic that I have another book called From Zero to Speaker Hero, and that incident inspired me to write that book. But then to the Zero to Sales Hero, it was an event where I was just a couple of years after I gave that presentation that didn't go too well. I had some issues with my sales results, and I got put on a performance improvement plan. And for anyone in the audience that's in sales, it basically means you're told if you don't start getting some better sales results, we're going to terminate you. And what happened during that time is I decided to hire a sales coach, and that person got me to see that it was my attitude, my activity, and my accountability. All three of those had taken a slide. And once I was able to turn my sales performance around 90 days later, it really inspired me to write the book, because I thought to myself that most of what helped me go from zero, which was like 30% of my quota, back to 128% of my quota, was really 10 key concepts and pillars of effective selling. And I felt called to write the book for other people that are either new to sales, in sales and burned out, or people that entrepreneurs, for instance, that know they need to sell, but maybe they just don't like selling. So I wrote the book as a way of almost giving back to the community after I had a pretty tough year in sales myself.
Wow. Okay. So I got three A's there, right? So we had attitude, activity, and oh no, I got this. Attitude, activity, and oh shoot, what was the third one?
Accountability.
Accountability. Oh,
Accountability. It's actually
oh.
the toughest one of all three of those. So I know it's something that even myself to this day, it's something I focus on, but it's really, I always say it's the toughest skill I think to master is a sales professional or an entrepreneur, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, as a coach, I probably should have gotten that accountability one, but so no, that is well, okay. I've coached salespeople and had, and had salespeople on my team before. And accountability is really one of those one of those bad words almost to most salespeople. They don't like somebody watching over their shoulder. So I'm just kind of curious, how do you break through that tendency for salespeople to not want to have anybody holding them accountable for anything?
Well, that's a great question, because what I developed a habit of was, at first when I hired that sales coach, they were holding me accountable to my results, but then I had to learn to hold myself accountable. And the way that I do that, Matt, is it's a very simple process. I basically set weekly KPIs. And during that time that I was on the performance improvement plan and had that coach, every Friday, I would send my coach, Mike, a spreadsheet that showed how many calls I made, how many meetings I had, how many sales I made. And I made a goal each week to have 50 contacts, whether it was new prospects or reaching out to my current customers or sending somebody a text or email, whatever it was, that was all contact. So that accountability, doing that on a weekly basis, I was sending it to somebody else, but eventually it started to rebuild my personal accountability, which to this day, I still do activities like that in my business, because if I don't hold myself accountable, I'm probably not going to get the results I'm looking to achieve.
Yeah. Any sort of athlete, if they're really in the game, they want to have that accountability. They want to have somebody who's saying, hey, you can go harder. Somebody who's willing to push them a little bit more than what they're willing to do themselves. I mean, it can be hard mentally, but it can be hard mentally to make yourself go the distance and go that extra mile, but having somebody who's in your corner. But I think it's kind of like that sense of, is somebody really in my corner that somebody struggles with oftentimes. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess, would you say hiring your own coach helped you to feel like you actually had somebody who was in your corner over like maybe a sales manager or a sales leader? Or, tell me about the difference in that experience.
Yeah, the biggest difference, I think, Matt, is that with that time in my life, my sales manager was really just how many by when, and when's the business coming in, and what are you going to do to change your performance. But then I think the beauty of having a coach is that not only do you have somebody that's holding you accountable, you also have a sounding board, and you also have somebody who's guiding and directing you. And with all due respect to my sales director at that time, I mean, she was managing about 10 other people on a sales team. And, she, of course, was accountable for her numbers and her performance. So I think that this is a common challenge I see on sales teams, is that it's been said that most sales managers can only spend about like 20 to 30% of their time on coaching. So one of my philosophies and beliefs has always been every coach needs a coach. So hiring that coach, not only, I can honestly say today that it helped me save my sales career, but secondly, it also got me to see how effective coaching is and the impact it can have, not just on sales performance, but on any type of performance. It was a very enlightening discovery and experience for myself.
So that accountability aspect, let's walk backwards from that a little bit, because I feel like sometimes people don't want to have the accountability because their ego or their self-confidence, I guess I could say, they're afraid that they're not going to be able to maybe even withstand some negative feedback. So I think that is kind of a good place to. So how do we get to the point where we can be confident enough to deal with the negative feedback and say, you know what, this was good, this was helpful, I can do this?
So one of the elements that we were talking about as we were getting ready for this call, I call it the sales confidence code, and it
Hmm.
it leads right into what you were just asking about, because part of my philosophy is that I believe that in order for us, number one, there is a reward for accountability, and it is actually confidence. Sounds crazy, but if you or anybody in the audience thinks right now, when was the last time you had a deadline or a task or something you were working on, and you finally got it done, and you're like, yes, you got this feeling of energy or charge or positivity. So that's actually a boost in your self confidence. And so the thing that I think we sometimes forget is when we procrastinate or put things off, we're focusing more on perfection versus progress. And so with another side of that, the sales confidence code, what does that really mean? Well, that really means that to be effective in selling, we need to be confident. To be confident, we are selling ourselves. It's not just about products and services, but part of what I found in most traditional sales training programs is that we're usually talking about how to close, how to handle objections, the product, the competition. So one thing that I bring to the table is 6 key thought habits. And one of those, ironically, is self-confidence. So self-confidence is something that most people in sales getting started don't have a lot of. And I've been there, so I remember it. But the way you build that confidence muscle is to take daily action. And I call it 2 millimeter steps at a time. And that will actually breed confidence. If you just make those 50 calls, even if people hang up on you or don't want to talk to you, hey, you did the work, and you can give yourself a pat on the back. So there are some really amazing rewards for taking action and accountability. And the biggest one is confidence.
I got to say, there have been certainly times when I've struggled with my own confidence, and sometimes it is just exactly as you say, just making myself take the small next step. You know what? I can pick up the phone, at least make one call. All right, I'll make one call today,
Right,
and then that
right.
call turns into maybe 3 or 4 or 5 calls, and then maybe 10, because you kind of just start getting into it. It's like, you know what? I can do this. I can get some momentum here. So that's powerful. So just taking that next step. So how does somebody though like talk themselves into taking that next step? How does somebody convince themselves to do that? What are some tips there?
Sure. I think the biggest tip that I could give everyone and anyone that's any type of a business where performance, activity, results are important is to keep some type of a tracking mechanism. And again, mine's as simple. It's a Google sheet, and the reason that I bring that up is that I'm going to be upfront. This is a totally open conversation here.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's some weeks that I get to 5 o'clock Friday and I look, oh my gosh, I am way behind on contacts. So then I'll just do a few LinkedIn reach outs, or I'll go through some business cards of people I met at a networking event. And even if, even if I only get to 20 or 25 people, I know I made some effort. But when I look at that spreadsheet, and I send my spreadsheet, I have an accountability coach who gets it every Monday. So to me, it's a check-in of, was I on track? Was I off track? And if I was off track, I always ask myself, what did I do well last week? What could I do different? What am I going to do different now? And if it's like, hey, my activity was way down, then it's like, maybe I need to get another tip is scheduling time on your calendar that you're actually doing the activity, because if it's not scheduled, it probably won't happen. So that would be another tip that I would also recommend to drive that accountability. And then last but not least, I'd say give yourself a reward. A reward doesn't have to be anything extravagant. It can be, I like to go to the park and take a walk by myself sometimes. To me, that's a great way to reward myself, just to get out in nature. Yeah, you can get frozen yogurt, you can do something else fun. But I think doing those things, if I know I'm going to get done by 5 o'clock, then I've got that free time. I've got the time to take the walk. I've got the time to go get my frozen yogurt, spend time with my family. But there are rewards when we do the activity. That's for sure.
Excellent, excellent. So you said that phrase, the sales confidence code, a couple times, and so how would you summarize the sales confidence code?
The sales confidence code really is comprised of 6 key thought habits that make us effective in sale. I'd say sales, business, and life. It's just not just only sales, by the way. But the habits are just to quickly name them. Number one, my self-confidence. Number two, my ability to connect and work with people. Number three, the work habits I have. Number four, my self-discipline and my, we'll call that structure. And then there's also habits of feeling like a sense of fulfillment. Do I enjoy the work I'm doing? Do I do the work I enjoy? And the last one's about goal setting. So what I recommend is that there's an online assessment people can take that will show them where they stand in these areas. But the biggest thing that I found, if we talk about sales and business, I think the 3 habits that matter the most are definitely confidence, self-discipline, and I also think the ability to work with and influence people. Those are probably the biggest 3 parts of the sales confidence code that can really make or break our success in my experience.
Okay, so confidence, the ability to work with people. Oh, and the middle one. What was the middle one again?
Yeah, so the confidence, the structure, which is self-discipline. So, making those 50 contacts when I don't want to, for instance, and then people, the ability I have to influence and connect with people. And for some of us, we've got natural gifts there. For others of us, if we're introverted or it's not something that comes natural, that might be something we need to work a little more on, but that's okay. We're all different. And some of the best sales professionals I've known are introverts, by the way. Because they
Yeah.
don't talk a lot. They listen more.
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, because I think sometimes we
Mhm.
feel like we have to be the ones to drive the conversation and to, well, say the most words in a conversation. That can be intimidating. But I've always found it the best wherever I just like, you know what? Listen, what is going on in their life, and how can you make sure that you can, or that I can, solve their problem. So I think that's fantastic. So you said confidence, and then influence, and oh, come on now, I got this. I got this. Confidence, uh influencing people, and a self-discipline. All right, self-discipline. There we go. I got
Yes.
it. Yes, yes. Okay.
You got
I'm
it. You
gonna I'm
got
gonna go
it.
back to three
That's
A's now. All right. So accountability,
right.
right? That was that third one.
Yeah.
Attitude and activity. All right. All
Correct.
right.
Yep.
All right. All right. I'm getting it. Okay, good. Well, hopefully the viewers are getting it as well. So that sales confidence code, that first part, though, that confidence. I know that we were talking, or maybe I saw it on LinkedIn, because we're
Mhm.
LinkedIn connections, and I saw that you use a certain routine each day to kind of help engender that confidence, I guess, in you, or deepen that confidence in you. Tell me a little bit more about like the daily self disciplines that drive that confidence.
Yes, I call that my morning ritual. And my morning ritual for everyone that's listening or watching this right now, it's really just a matter of taking some time each morning to set yourself for the day. And there's a lot of different ways that people can go about this. But for myself, part of what I do is I each day will do at least 30 minutes of physical activity. I listen to and I read Napoleon Hill's self confidence formula. I actually have it on my iPad, so I will read that formula. And then sometimes if I'm driving to the gym, I'll actually listen to it in my car. And then the other thing I do is I also journal. I write a page about everything I'm grateful for as though it's already happened. And on the mornings that, maybe I'm going out of town or I'm flying or it's, just a really quick, you know what? On those mornings, I will sit in silence for 5 or 10 minutes before I start my day, because even doing something as little as that is better than nothing. But I think it's really, to me, it's about setting an intention for the day. How do I want my day to look? How do I want it to go? How am I going to show up? And I challenge myself each day to be the best version of myself. And so if I'm going to be the best version of myself, I want to get myself in that mindset each morning.
Okay, so you kind of have that morning routine of you said the Napoleon Hill's confidence code. Is that what it's called, or what is it?
It's so Napoleon Hill in his book Think and Grow Rich, he has a
Okay.
chapter, the chapter faith, and then right after faith, it's about self-confidence. And so for anybody, again, that's out there, I'm a big Audible fan. So sometimes what I'll do is I will listen to it, but then it's also, I would invite people, and I'm happy to, share this offline with you, Matt, but there's actually, you can actually get that. There's a whole, like a whole piece that's called the self-confidence formula that you can put, you can put on a piece of paper or somewhere else and just read it each day. And that's something I made a habit to do.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen it, like, you can get it, like, kind of on, like, a scroll or something like that
Right.
to be able to put up on the wall. Yeah. Yeah, now there's, the Greatest Salesman in the World too. Isn't there, like, a book that kinda goes through some, like, rituals for that as well? I mean, is that kind of, something similar that people can kinda use as well?
Yes, that is probably one of the best books I would recommend to the audience. And as a matter of fact, when I do group coaching and retreats and some of the things I do, and even work with sales teams, that's part of the program. And the reason that it is that if you go to it's a great story, it's a great fable. But if you go to the back of the book, Matt, there's 10 scrolls. And the 10 scrolls are really the 10 ways of effectiveness. It can be sales or leadership, but it's everything from learning to master your emotions to persisting till you succeed to also living this day as though it's your last. And what I do is I recommend that people choose at least one of those scrolls and focus on it for 30 days. And you'll really see some differences in the way it sinks into your subconscious mind. Not to get too metaphysical here, but that's a really great book that I would recommend also.
Well, first of all, you should have said spoiler alert, because if you read through the book, you're not supposed to know the other scrolls until you get through the first ones. But
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Yep. That's right.
Don't cheat. Don't jump to the back. Go through the whole process. No,
Don't go to the back. Read the book
yeah.
first.
Read the book first. Yeah.
Because it'll make sense. Right. It'll make more sense if you read the book first. Absolutely. And it's probably about a 30-minute read.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's a great book. And yeah, those scrolls, those mantras. I mean, I always tell people that if they want to memorize something, or if they really ideally want to make some sort of change about their beliefs or their behaviors, then you have to do that through repetition and emotion. And unless you want me to try to traumatize you into success, which doesn't typically work very well, you got to kind of lean on repetition. And repetition is something that it also has some sort of emotional value. And so, scrolls like that and being able to visualize with emotion, what you want, like you said, like that gratitude journal is phenomenal. So, like if we were we have the confidence disciplines, right? So we have the journaling, and we have the confidence formula. Sorry, I said that wrong earlier, but the confidence formula, like from Napoleon Hill,
right?
And we have some of that accountability, some of that tracking as well. Now, what about, so is that enough that goes into that attitude, or what do you feel like goes into the attitude of a successful salesperson?
My recommendation on that is, and going, back into the days, I feel like I'm dating myself, but I was in sales for over 20 years. And what I found during that time is that, again, what I think most companies are missing, and I say this with respect, but what I did is I went outside of my company to work on myself. So I did, I joined Toastmasters. I went to a lot of Tony Robbins seminars. I really became a student of human potential. And then the other big thing, and the decision I made, Matt, was to hire a coach. So I always say coaches need coaches, but sales is like you said at the beginning, it's a tough game. I mean, it requires a lot of grit, tenacity. One day you're up, the next day you're down. And it's definitely, it's almost like a high performance sport. So I think having a coach also makes sense.
Absolutely. And so the coach kind of helps you to have a good attitude, can maybe kind of work you through some of your challenges. You said some of that personal development, the Tony Robbins, or I guess maybe Napoleon Hill, to help you have the right good attitude about it. Because it depends on how your perception around the no's, that can either fuel you, or it can really take away your energy, I guess. I know that great book, Go for No, kind of helps with that perspective around that, because it's kind of geared towards, like you were saying, the KPIs, like focusing on the KPIs, focusing on the steps and the activity, and making that the goal over just closing the deal. Closing the deal is evidence of good activity, I guess, is kind of another way of saying it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, I'm working on with my business, I'm working on some sales training agreements for a couple businesses. And the other side of that too is when they say, no, we're going to put this on hold for a while, being able to have the resilience and the confidence to reach back out and pause and then reach back and have another conversation and re-engage the team. And I've got two of those right now that said that. And we had a conversation and they're like, okay, yeah, let's re-engage and go back to the table. So it's also, it's about, taking the rejection, but also when somebody says, I want to pause or wait or, put this off for a little bit, it's about, okay, how am I going to critically think through this to get this back on track? So that, I think, comes with years of experience. And also, I think critical thinking is another reason I joined Toastmasters. It might sound crazy, but part of even thinking on your feet with table topics, when somebody asks you a question off the cuff and being able to answer on your feet, I think it really drives that critical thinking ability that we all need to have in this crazy world we call sales.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to walk when you're walking into a sales call. That's for sure.
Right.
There's a lot of companies that just do kind of a set presentation, but in my unless you're maybe doing like a software as a service, or something like that, that's typically kind of not the best way to do it. You have to be able to adapt with what's going on. So that's excellent. So we've only got a few more minutes here, but I wanted to make sure that we kind of summarize that sales confidence code for the viewer. And so again, we go back to those three areas that you said before, but what else have we missed with the sales confidence code that the viewer really needs to understand to be able to take hold of it and take action? If they were to run out and try to kind of get moving, get some action on their own.
Yeah, there's a few, I think, final pieces of wisdom I could share, Matt. I think the first to remember, if we are starting something new, whether it's sales or a new business venture, and we're putting ourselves out there, just to remember that to do anything new, I mean, it's 6 to 12 to 18 months to really get that confidence sometimes and get 100% up to speed. And number two, I think we all need to remember that there are seasons. And believe it or not, we're still coming out of the season of COVID. So, buying decisions are being a little bit delayed. Even us sellers or business leaders, we're still kind of coming back out to the world. And so a lot of the sales research says that there's this whole phenomenon called seller drag right now, which means that we may all need to focus a little bit more on our motivation and our skills development more now than ever. That's the best way to get remotivated and re-engaged and back in the game again. So I think seasons is the second topic that I would just give as a final thought. And then the last is that just remember that I remember hearing a saying once, you're only as good as your last sale. And that sounds really, might sound depressing or negative, but I think the biggest thing that I would say from that is that whether you win a sale or lose a sale, always get in the habit of asking yourself again, what did I do well? What would I do different next time and what's next? So I ask myself that question, whether someone said yes or no, or we're going to put this off for a while, having that courage to ask ourselves those questions. And sometimes when I ask those questions, I realize, well, you know what? I didn't have the right people at the table, or I didn't really help them get a compelling reason to make a decision. That's why they want to put this off. But developing that self-coaching is another recommendation I would also make to the audience.
Awesome. Well, and if somebody were to want to find out more about your coaching and the way that you can help them kind of work through those things that they might be missing and help them drive more confidence and activity and provide them with supportive accountability, how would one go about reaching out to you and finding out more?
Sure, that's a great question. And what I would recommend to anyone that's just curious or wanting to find out more, just to find out more about my background, is on my website is AIM, AIM, T as in training, and C as in consulting.com. So it's aimtandc.com. And at that website, they could get a better understanding of me and also some of the things I'm doing, and also see some testimonials from other clients that I've worked with in the past. I'm also on, of course, LinkedIn and social media too. If people are interested in that route, that's where I am there also.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Amy. We really appreciate it. And as the viewers and the listeners, we really hope that you took away some of those key points that we hit upon and apply them into your business. Find out more about Amy's trainings and seminars, and she can even come in and speak for your group as well. So again, appreciate it, Amy, and appreciate you who are listening and viewing. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt, for the opportunity. This has been so much fun today, and it's been great to be here. So thank you for the invitation. And again, thank you to all the viewers and listeners who joined us as well.
Thank you for being with us today. But now is the time. Are we back? All right. Sorry, I didn't give a very good cue there, so that's totally my bad. But thank you for listening. Really appreciate it. And hopefully you can listen more to future episodes of Entrepreneurs Ascending. This mindset topic is critical and foundational to success. I know with a lot of entrepreneurs, they're already driven personalities, but I can't emphasize enough how important it is that for you and your salespeople and your employees, mindset is foundational to success. So thank you. And now we're going to sign off. Thank you for being with us today. But now is the time to put what we talked about into practice. Remember, your family, employees, and community are depending on you to rise up and win. The great news is you're not alone. You're part of a resurgence of entrepreneurs who are ready to take their business, life, and impact to the next level, and we're going to do it together. This show is powered by Time for Success, where we help business owners every day who want more freedom and wealth while building a legacy of positive impact. Please follow Time for Success on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube for more helpful strategies and tools for creating the business and life of your dreams.